So the first thing we want to do is just get a feel for the Matlab interface. When you first start up Matlab, you'll probably see something like this. There's actually lots of different ways that you can kind of organize and group the Matlab GUI or Matlab interface, but this is kind of a common way to see it. Right here we have what we call the command window, and this is a window where you can type in commands. So you might define variables, you might just do some basic arithmetic, things like that. So we'll actually spend a lot of time typing in code and typing in commands into the command window. Over here we have what's called the workspace, and this tells you what variables that you currently have defined in your workspace. Since we start off by saying x equals 2, we now have a variable x that is equal to 2. When you evaluate commands in the command window, MATLAB automatically stores them as the variable ans, or answer. So we also have this variable answer right now in our workspace sitting here. So you can see what's going on in your workspace and know what variables you have by looking at this. And then down here, finally on the lower right, we have what we call the command history, and this just has a list of the commands that we've issued recently. So if I wanted to, I can even just select this, copy it, and paste it over here, and reevaluate all of those commands again. So this just keeps track of things that you've typed into the command window in their history. And it's useful because sometimes you type in something that's rather long and you mess it up. Well, instead of having to retype it from scratch, you can just come over here and copy and paste it, or you can just drag it over and do that type of thing. So while we do spend quite a bit of time with the command window, another very useful thing that you need to know is how to use what are called M files. M files are text files that MATLAB uses to store code, and you can actually run M files as kind of like little programs. So the M file that we're going to be working with is called tutorial1. So if I hit open, and actually let me change directory to the directory that we have all this stuff in. Go to presentation, and then I'll do it from here. So tutorial1, that is an M file. You can see the extension right there. If we hit open, we now have what we call the Matlab Editor open. So here's the Matlab Editor, and this is the tutorial1 M file that we just opened. So we're going to go through this entire M file, but let's just start with some of this basic command line stuff, as I so put it. So another command that's very useful is the clear screen command. So if we come back to here, sometimes you just want to get rid of everything you've typed. So if you hit CLC and hit enter, that clears everything out, and that's useful. Sometimes you'll type things and they just consume the whole screen. You just want to get rid of everything, so CLC does that. When dealing with figures, we haven't talked about figures or plotting, but when we get to it, the close all command is very useful. So sometimes you have figure windows open, and maybe you have lots of figure windows open. And you could just come to each one of these and one by one go to them and close them. But if you have many figures open, maybe tens or hundreds, and you don't want to do that manually, just hitting close all will get rid of all of the open figures. So that's useful. And then clear all, that's another useful command that gets rid of all the variables. So right now we have these variables in our workspace. If I type clear all and hit enter, now my workspace is clean and I don't have any variables. So often what I do is I do a close all, clear all, CLC, and that basically restores the MATLAB to how it was when you first started MATLAB. Some other features about the interface, there's an AutoTab Complete feature. What does that mean? So if I start typing a function name or a script name or a file name and then hit tab, MATLAB will go ahead and pop up all the commands or files that start with the letters TUT in this case. So maybe I didn't know I was looking for tutorial, so I could just start typing that, hit tab, and then just scroll through the little menu that pops up and pop that up. Or maybe I can't remember what the name of the function is that generates random numbers, but I know it starts off RAN. So if I just type RAN and hit tab, it will now pop up a list of all the functions that start with RAN, and I can just scroll through them. So that's a very useful thing, both for finding things you can't remember and just saving with typing sometimes. The up arrow is very useful. If in the command window I hit up, so this is just the up key, I can just scroll back in time through the command history. So all this is doing is letting me scroll through our command history. Again, sometimes you type rather elaborate commands in the command window and you mess it up, or you want to do it again. So instead of typing all of it again, just hit enter or hit up, and that will take you to the very last thing that you typed. And then another thing that's kind of nice to know is Control C. Sometimes you'll type something in MATLAB and you wish that you hadn't. So maybe the software starts churning, or we're just printing out a whole bunch of things or popping up a whole bunch of figures, if you hit Control C, that will kill whatever command is currently being executed. So those are all useful things about the command line that you'll need to know, and it'll be useful to have as we go forward and work through this script.